Hello and welcome back to Spirit Mom. Today at Spirit School, we're going to be discussing arguing about God and arguing to God. This is a memo for atheists and for those who want to play the blame game with God. Agnostics, anybody that's just really, God, you don't want to be like that for starts. We've talked about how the all is mind. We've talked about vibrations, and some people can get in this mindset because God is so big that there just isn't a God. That's just the universe. That's not a God, but they would be mistaken. So, one of the biggest arguments I hear, and I've had that argument myself once upon a time, is, well, if God's real, he's an a-hole. Look at my life. If God was real, how could he let this happen to me? Wouldn't he have saved me? If he is real, that's no God I want to know. This is ridiculous. Well, right there, we can sum that up into a few things. Clearly, you're blame gaming. You're not taking responsibility for your own life, and you don't understand the law of attraction or vibrations. So if you are still like this yourself, or you know anybody that is, quickly let yourself and them know about vibrations. I preach this all the time because it is the most important thing to know besides the all is mind. Well, that all of mind uses vibrations to get literally everything done. With the knowledge that vibrations are literally everything, we use this information for the law of attraction, the law of manifestation. We use this information to make our lives. So I guess that means there's no God. There's just vibrations. Who made the vibrations? Who is causing effects and ripples of their own? Who is the captain of the ship steering us to begin with? This is huge, and it's one of those things that you're not going to get to see to believe. We don't all get those near-death experiences. I haven't had one. I haven't actually, I've seen a couple things, but it's been so, did I actually see that to actually know for sure? Let's just say I haven't had that full stamp of approval. There's no going back from this. It's 100%. God is real. I talked to him yesterday. He looks amazing. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody gets that validation, that 100%. That's why the Bible constantly talks about faith. You need faith. You need faith in a higher power. It's the first or second rule in recovery. You need a higher power. So God only exists because I'm weak and I need a higher power. He's not really there. It's just something us stupid humans tell ourselves. No, again. Now, what God is can be left up for debate. But once you get into studying these things, not just studying, but implementing them into your lives, the fact and reality of God, one God, is undeniable. And then you can start arguing about God's, because if we're talking about alien interventions in our life, I'm sure they would have seemed like gods and blah, 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 blah. That's all under the God, the all, the for real being that we are told not to even super think of because it's would blow our tiny heads. Like if we were to actually see him, her, we'd blow up. Like it's too much for us. We are low on the consciousness totem pole. Like obviously animals and all that stuff come below us, but when it comes to consciousness, we are such a baby species. Like we have so many things to go into first, like our own collective consciousness, our own higher realms of existence. The whole point is about heading up to God. We get higher and higher and higher in our own vibrations and realities and better dimensions and all these things. But guess what? When we make it all the way back to God, which multiple religions talk that is the point, up and up and up we go to Heaven's Gate, which is like nirvana to the Buddhists. They all have a different name for it. And then some religions even talk about getting like that there is a God figure, and then there's still something behind that, like something even bigger than God is behind that first birthed God, and then God birthed the universe and us and all that stuff. So that's just, wow. Like this stuff is huge. And once you get to know it, get to implement it, get to see the results for yourself, the proof is undeniable. Once you understand the power of vibration and manifestation, you then begin to understand the world. Once you see it play out and unfold in your own life, that a positive attitude makes a positive life, and it's more than just actions. There's synchronicities and magic behind it. There is a conscious force that is behind it. Your higher self becomes undeniable. You start to know things. You start to see between the lines of situations. Once you start to live this yourself, it is difficult to tell somebody else, yeah, I know there's a God. Oh yeah, but how? And then you start to list the practical reasons of vibrations and manifestation, and they go, well, that's just because you're doing better and blah, blah, blah. But it's more than that. It's more than simply just doing better. Because yes, you take the first step in changing your outlook, but then the universe takes a step. Okay, and then you take another step, and then it takes a step. It's not, you're not walking alone. You're one of the legs and the universe is the other leg. And the two of you walk together down this upward path. And it's a beautiful thing that's really hard to explain to other people. But all you can say after you started living this life is, look at how my life was before and look at how it is now. And that is the clearest proof that there's something there. And maybe you can get them just to buy into the early law of attraction stuff, which is really like ground floor level. But it gets so much more profound to the fact where you realize we're basically just video game characters. And the reason life is hard is because our higher selves wanted that. The whole universe is all about experiencing and learning, and like it's spreading out in all these different tentacled, webbed ways because it wants experience. It wants to learn. It wants to just figure out everything that it's possible and capable of doing. It needs all these things, and I'm sure would probably prefer a happy life, but then it depends on your soul, because I'm sure, and I've heard that there is negative souls out there that do want raw evil, and I guess good for them, and that's their dark experience, but I'm not one of them, and most, if not all, humans are not one of them. We are benevolent, happy, good souls that want happy, benevolent, good lives, and we can achieve that. It's within our power, and it's within God's power to help us. And it's important to spread that information and to help the people around us grow with this knowledge as well. And one of the first steps is just to make your own life better and to walk that path yourself. And then they can see you bettering your life and be like, wow, I want that too. And that's the first step, because to try to convince someone there's a God is no easy task. And fighting about which religion is right is the biggest problem to why so many people are turning atheist. Because honestly, some people are going to say I'm crazy for saying this, but as long as you're believing in the God, a God, it doesn't matter which Bible you're reading. As long as it's all positivity, no hate, all love, then you're good. I like Jesus, but I also think the Buddhists had a lot to offer us, and my goodness, almost everything good health-wise came from India, so that'd be the Hindu religion, although Buddhism also came from them, although it was taken over big time by China, and then Japan has a hand in it, so we always see it as Chinese, but it's actually started in India too. So India is the best. It's got a lot of good stuff. And weird fun fact, they had a Christian church built by or started because of Jesus, and Jesus visited them during his life. They knew what Jesus, they weren't Christians. Jesus had gone there and they started a church because of him. They didn't even, because it's back before any communication, they didn't even know that Jesus had gone and the cross thing and died. Like, they started this on the alive Jesus. And they didn't know he was dead, and they didn't know the gospel, and they didn't know that Christianity was a thing. Now, they were their own kind of church based off what Jesus told them. Like, you want to say like that's some proof right there. That's profound in showing why Jesus was so wise, because he traveled through all the lands. Argue it if you want, it doesn't matter. The facts are kind of there, and it explains why his teachings are like on it, because he traveled and learned all the religions, because God spoke what each nation needed to know to them. And yes, did humans twist it in a lot of cases and ruin it? Yes. But that's not God's fault. And the message was there and it was authentic. So there is like bones to be looked at when you pick through at it, right? Like, there is seeds of truth in all of it, because God handed down the correct seed, and what flower they grew, that was on the humans at the time. But there's so many, like just in the Hindu religion alone, because Hinduism is, that's why I've said this before, it's like a weird paganism, because it actually is like a branch of, I think around 1,000, if not more, sub-religions. It's not like one. They have many splinterings. That's what happens when you have like lots of gods, because then they all have their different, there's one church there that worships rats. I'm not joking. It's a rat church, and they feed old rats, and they're seen as like the higher power. I'm not joking. It's like, okay, but I'm not gonna judge. To each their own. If you're getting happiness from the rats, then I used to have like pet rats, so I'm not like anti-rat, but just a fun little tidbit of what some people will view as God. I personally see it as the all. The all is mind. I do love and respect Jesus, because he knew a lot, and I think he truly came to save us, and he was a genius. He would have been the Son of God though, because we're all the Son of God. And then there's people that say that aliens tinkered with the situation, and that's why Mary was a virgin, and he's planted, who knows, doesn't matter. He had great things to say, so we should listen regardless. And whatever people want to say about like the nuances of the details of the situation, it doesn't actually take away from the message that he had for us. So I am pro Jesus, but I'm also pro Buddha, except he was very sexist. He said, fine, after someone argued with him, he said, fine, go ahead and let women in, but it's going to ruin us. I'm not kidding. Because one of his disciples came and asked if these girls could join, and he said no. But the disciple argued, and finally Buddha was like, okay, fine, but they're going to ruin us. I'm not joking. That's true too. So I never heard Jesus, everything I've ever read, Jesus has never said anything sexist, except there's one thing in the secret, like there's scriptures that were not actually put in the Bible, which people can argue about the validity of those. But in one of those, one of his disciples said, oh, but Lord, why bother with Mary? She's not even going to go to heaven because she's a woman, which wasn't even, and Jesus says, don't worry, I'll make her a man after she dies or something like that. And I was like, weird, I don't know. God is a huge, complicated situation, but that doesn't mean that we should just not believe in him, her, the all. It just means that we need to show a little faith and start taking the steps of the basic beginning of what has been told to us to live a good life. And that is positive vibrations, which is what my channel is slowly becoming all about, is how the tools you can use to make your life high vibrational, which will make it better. So goodbye for now, people. Spirit Mom.